right now because there's supposed to be a new chief coming in. They have three people who may be available to be chief. Paul Veach, who is related to Veach, the ex-chief, who was there when Daryl Mount was murdered and lied about his murder and beating. Or we have Bob Gilson. We got Gilson, the man who was literally the head of the special teams and special unit in Saratoga. Take back the narrative. And ran all of the protests in which they are on an investigation from the Attorney General's office right now. Last, we'd have to say, we have somebody who was also involved in Daryl Mount's case. Not only involved in Daryl Mount's case, he is named in the lawsuit. We need change, and we need it now. 2020 was not a fad. It was not fun. It wasn't a game. We put our bodies and lives on the line for change. Not for us to sit here and come up with 50 points in which we're supposed to ensue to make sure that we actually had change. When we're out here talking about adopt or ratify, they haven't adopted or ratified. They've done nothing. These same Democrats who like to use black people for their elections and for their polls have done nothing. Ron Kim has done nothing. Jim Montanino has done nothing. Manita has done nothing. What are we going to do? When is there going to be a change? We have Jason, our first black elected official. What is he doing for the black people in this city? What is he doing for the black people, the little 600 black people that we have here? We are a super minority. We need representation. We need people who are actually going to fight for things that we need. We don't need to just hear lip jabbing with no actual change. We need real change. So once again, we watched somebody get murdered in the middle of the street. There was a protest in Troy. There's going to be a protest here on Thursday at 5 p.m. on Congress Park. Why is everybody not upset about this? Why does this not affect everybody when you see any human being beaten in the middle of the street like an animal? No, worse than an animal, because they can't do that to animals. And they say it was a racist because it was black officers. The system of policing is racist. You can't build a system out of slavery and slave catchers, overseers, and then call it police and say it's something different.
That's straight.
Not at all. The system's doing exactly what it's meant to do. Kill, harm, abuse, silence. They're already silenced and already unheard. He was a skateboarder, a family man. Family said he loved to tell jokes. Goofy. You hear him on the video. He doesn't even curse at these guys while he's being beat. He says, "Why are you doing this? I didn't do anything wrong." But they continue to beat him. Even when he was on the ground, they beat him more and told him to get on the ground. They lifted him up, smacked him in the head with a baton. Yes, I think of Rodney King when I see this. Yes, I think of George Floyd when I see this. Yes, I think about Sandra Bland when I see this. Emmett Till when I see this. What we believe happened to Daryl Mount when I see this. But there were no body cams in 2013. There were no videos. There was no surveillance in 2013. So all we have is police who are under investigation by the Attorney General's office for civil rights violations telling us that they ran after this black man, and when they caught him, they didn't do nothing to him. We just seen on the video, and everybody knows that. They tell you, don't run. If you run, you're gonna get beat. You're gonna get killed. You're gonna get more charges. People are running for their lives. That was a Literally a traffic stop. You don't get pulled out of your car at gunpoint for a traffic stop. You don't have a special tactical unit pulling you over for a traffic stop. So we need to know what actually went on, and that starts from the top down. So the chief in Atlanta needs to be fired. Anybody that was on there on communications needs to be fired. Why was the white officer still on duty after he did this and just got fired yesterday because of the cries of people all throughout this country? That's the only reason why. The black officers were fired on the spot. Why is that? Racism. We have police being added into our schools, the same schools that our children go to, while they're under investigation for civil rights violations of Black Lives Matter protesters. We have families, we have kids. Our kids do not need to be subjected to guns and violence. The only people who I have seen commit a shooting in Saratoga Springs in the last 20 years was a police officer in the middle of Broadway in Caroline. Police officer. When will we get and understand that the police are not here to protect us? The police are here to make money. Police are here to make sure that they go home safe at night. They always tell you that. They don't have the most dangerous job in the world. You know what one of the most dangerous jobs in the world is? To be black in America. To be poor in America. To be gay in America. That's what it means to be marginalized. I could talk all day and all night because I'm very passionate about this. I am a father. I have kids. And I couldn't imagine if that was my son. And then you have the mother screaming for peace. Probably coaxed to say that. But everybody's screaming for peace. Remain calm. Remain calm. Remain calm. How can you remain calm when you're constantly under surveillance? Constantly under scrutiny. Constantly don't know when you're going to be killed or not. Constantly shaking when you're thinking the cop is behind you and you're thinking you're getting pulled over. What do we do? Because this ain't it. And Saratoga Springs needs to lead the way for change. Saratoga Springs had the most extensive police reform bill that we had set up. 50 points. Civilian Review Board. 2 years ago. 3 years ago. It's not done. Where is it at? Being on no-knock warrants. Not done. Demilitarizing the police. Not done. Making our city more inclusive. Not done. How many more times do we have to come out here? Saratoga Black Lives Matter is here to make sure that SSPD, Saratoga County Sheriffs, and the New York State Troopers knows that we ain't having it here in our city. You won't kill one of us in our city. You won't beat one of us in our city. All that ended in 2020. That's what we're here for. Because once again, there is no representation for the marginalized individuals in our community. So we have to be that. We have to be that. And no, we're not going to get in there and become a city council person and do all talk and not actually commit any change at all. We'll be on the outside making change, putting pressure on the inside so they get it right. If we got to continue to come to city council meetings and shut them down like we did in 2021, 60, 75 people showing up, hallways full, we will. If we got to do a civil disobedience, we will. How many charges did we catch? How many $1,000 do we pay for lawyers? And we're still here under investigation now by the federal FBI. But we're still here. We refuse to be scared. We refuse to be calm. We refuse not to be angry. You need to be angry. If you're not angry, there's something wrong with you. Plain and simple. You are inhumane if you can watch something like that and you don't care. We are calling for black leaders to step up. Black churches, step up. Pastors, step up. Where's the clergy at? We have one here. But where's the black clergy? There's black churches. When black death happens, does it not matter? When does it matter? When it's your kid? Or when it's your husband? Your daughter, your son, your uncle? Your aunt? Your niece? Your nephew? Is that when you care? When it becomes personal to you? Or do you stand up and fight and make sure that these people know that we're not having it? Not on our watch. I'll go to the next speaker. Here, Saratoga BLM.
Every single year, we have seen the rise in black people being killed by the police. Every single year. And just like Lex said, what reform has been done? What reform has been done? Where are the 50 points? Where's the CRB? I see elected officials talking about Tyree Nichols, talking about how upsetting this is, how we need to do something. So then let's do something. Let's do something. I see Saratoga Springs talk about reform. We're giving more money to the police. We're not demilitarizing them. We're putting police in elementary schools. And how are those police gonna treat and interact with black children? That's what I wanna know. Because we already know how they interact with us. We already know how they interact when we go to city council meetings and they lock us out. And they pull us out of our cars. And they arrest us on misdemeanors, on warrants for misdemeanors and violations. All across the country, we've seen rises in police killings and militarizing the police. There has been no change. There has been no change. This is an ongoing fight. Just like Lex said, it starts from the top, and we haven't seen anything yet. How many more times do I have to see a black man or a black person cry out for their mother? He was 80 yards away from his house, beat with a baton. They pulled him up. They took turns on him. They put him on the side of the car, and he fell down, and they put him back up. They waited 16 minutes to call EMT, and when the EMT got there, they didn't do anything yet. When is it gonna end? We're gonna be here every time, every day. We're the ones that speak for the people that cannot speak. We're the ones that speak for the people that are scared of the powers that be. And honestly, I'm just so tired of coming up here and talking about police killings and people crying out for their mothers. It is disheartening. It is sickening. Nothing has changed since Emmett Till. Nothing has changed since Rodney King. Where's the reform? There was not one gun that was taken out. Tasers, pepper spray, batons, punching, kicking. They beat him to a pulp. There needs to be outrage. Outrage. I am sick. I'm trying not to cry right now because this is disgusting. And I'm tired. And I'm sick and tired, but I'm not gonna stop, and we're not gonna stop. I'm now gonna read a statement on behalf of Planned Parenthood as well, because they couldn't be here today. Statement of solidarity on behalf of Planned Parenthood of Greater New York. Once again, we are bound in grief for another Black life stolen by police violence. The senseless murder of Tyree Nichols has overwhelmed our communities with sorrow, frustration, and outrage. We know violence against Black and brown bodies at the hands of police is deeply rooted in systemic racism and discrimination. The Memphis police officers who brutally attacked Mr. Nichols and ultimately took his life have proven that white supremacy's venom is soaked into the fabric of this country and does not make exceptions for a person's race, ethnicity, or distorted pursuit of justice. Sister Song defines reproductive justice as the human right to maintain personal bodily autonomy, have children, not have children, and parent children in safe and sustainable communities. Reproductive justice demands that our communities deserve to live autonomous lives, free from state-sanctioned violence. Tyree Nichols and his family were robbed of that right. Even in his final moments of consciousness, as Mr. Nichols pleaded for his life and cried out for his mother, members of Memphis PD's Scorpion Unit disregarded his humanity. We must also remember that systemic racism is not exclusive to police departments. It is entrenched in the systems that built and continue to uphold American society. Planned Parenthood of Greater New York stands in solidarity with those demanding change, and we must continue to do our own work to dismantle bias and racism within our own organization. We are committed to fighting for a world where all people are free and safe. We demand accountability, justice, and an end to the inequities, and continue to define every moment of life for Black America. Today we speak in solidarity with Saratoga BLM and our justice-committed partners for the local fight for racial justice and reproductive justice here in this community. Thank you.
I'm the Reverend Joe Cleveland. I'm the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Saratoga Springs. The death of Tyree Nichols is yet another wake-up call for a sleepy nation. There is a toxic element in the culture of policing in this country. We want so badly to claim that this problem is just someplace over there. It's not here. It would be so much more comfortable to just sleep through the perniciousness of systemic racism, its ubiquitous nature. We would so much rather do that we'll make ridiculous claims like, there is no bias here in our school system, like there is no bias here in our police department. But we must be open enough to recognize that true strength is opening ourselves up to accountability and to responsibility. True strength is not the ability to inflict violent harm on another. True strength is being open and vulnerable with one another. I cannot be who I ought to be until you are who you ought to be. And you cannot be who you ought to be until I am who I ought to be. The words of MLK, Martin Luther King. We are all part of an inescapable web of mutuality. The people of Saratoga Springs are good people. Every member of the City Council is a blessed child of God, and justice delayed is justice denied. Every week, every day that the Civilian Review Board is delayed is justice denied to this community. Every day it's delayed is another opportunity in the further erosion of trust in this community. Every member of the Saratoga Springs Police Department is a blessed child of God, and as I say every Sunday morning, it is a blessing that you were born. And trust and thriving is always mutual trust and thriving. When I think of the city rules that allow us to only promote it from within, I think of something that Howard Thurman said. A community, he said, cannot feed for long on itself. It can only flourish where always the boundaries are giving way to the coming of others from beyond them. unknown and undiscovered brothers. We must always be opening up ourselves to undiscovered friends and siblings beyond our established cliques and circles. If we want to thrive, we must want thriving for all. We must open to others in relationships of accountability, responsibility, and vulnerability if trust is to grow and our community of communities is to thrive.
Hello, my name is Adrian Antonioli. I'm a Skidmore student here. I'm also a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation in Albany and the greater Capital District and Hudson Valley region. And we're here today because Tyree Nichols was the latest public execution that was aired on primetime television for the American public. Last year was the deadliest year in police killings in this country's history. 1,176 people were killed by police, and 3 out of 5 of them were running away. Now, I go to Skidmore just down the road. We don't have police that are crawling through our campus, but deep in our campus we have deeply, deeply rooted systemic issues of racism. I have watched as people who have suffered racism, crimes against them based on the color of their skin, be denied justice by the school. I have seen as police officers have walked up to people and turned off their body cameras. A lot of the people who go to Skidmore agree with the liberal politics of the school. And while that can bring people far, we know that no matter who is in charge, stuff will not change. And we know stuff will not change because they told us. Joe Biden told us things will not fundamentally change. And we know that even here in New York City, 3 days before the video was released of Tyree Nichols' murder, our governor declared that she would double down on hotspot policing. Hotspot policing is a type of policing that created the Scorpion Unit that murdered Tyree Nichols. Hotspot policing is the model of policing that led to the murder of Breonna Taylor.
Yeah.
3 days before they released the footage, she said she would double down on hotspot policing. And we're expected to vote for her because she's not the other guy? She also said, a day before tweeting condolences to the families of Tyree Nichols, to the family of Tyree Nichols, that she would not end qualified immunity. Now, as Lexa stated, the reforms that we have gotten throughout the country have not worked as they were intended to work. You can still murder someone with less than lethal weapons. We are here because we are the ones that are moving history. They're not in there, they're out here. And history needs a push. We cannot make this year the deadliest year of police violence. It has been off to an incredibly disheartening start. Not only have they murdered unarmed people just going home after a day of work, but in their efforts to expand the militarization of police, they have torn apart forests in Atlanta to build a playground for cops. A $90 million playground for cops to land their Black Hawk helicopters to practice invading civilian homes, to practice bomb techniques and shooting techniques. Also, they can occupy the city of Atlanta. The police are here to occupy. They're here to keep people in poverty, to create a cycle of violence that makes it impossible for them to dream of a better future. But we are here because we are dreaming of a better future. We are here because we are moving history, and we are here because the people are on our sides, and we will